Hey everyone, and welcome back. This is the wonderfully talented Peggy Dean. How are you, Peggy?
That's me. I'm great. How are you, Tom? Tom, have you
I'm
ever
good.
noticed
It's
that?
good to see you.
Have you ever noticed that when we're like exactly side by side, that we kind of look like we could be related?
I will take that as a compliment. And yeah, I think we could.
But don't you
You're,
see it like a
yeah,
little bit? Like we
you're
could be.
like the naughty, irresponsible sister I never had.
It's really true. Okay. I guess you would be like more of an older brother
Yeah,
then, and I would be.
level-headed, mature.
Yeah.
You look
Sure.
up to me with most things. Yeah.
The thing is, if people only knew, Tom. Anyway, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to see everybody.
What are you going to be sharing with us today?
Lisa has these great brushes. They're called the Aqua Real, Real, kind of like real aqua, real watercolors. Get it? More puns. That's what we're going to do. And we're going to do some fun plants. I'm going to do something really basic with everybody. I do have a tutorial that goes more into it, but I know that when we're live, like we want to get as much as possible in these sessions. So we're going to make some adorable little planters, home pots with plants. That you can turn into a, what is it called? A taxonomy, which is basically where they're all listed on a page. It's really fun. And that will allow you to continue on when we're finished. So, all right. So, I don't think that, oh, you can see it. I'm going to click here to close this message. Technology. All right, you guys, what I have done here is I have opened a canvas in Procreate. And if you probably know how to use Procreate and what canvas sizes that you like. I'm using the screen size to make it real easy on everybody. Now, what I'm going to do is go into, and for those who don't have this brush set yet, I just want to show you really quickly that Lisa has also included, where are they? At the bottom here. Look at all these color palettes. Like all of, okay, starting from here, all those color palettes come with this brush set. Can you believe? I know. So I'm going to go into that brush set. Don't look at my weird organization unless it helps you. I have these brushes like this folder that then has all of Lisa's brush sets in them. So I'm going to her Aqua Real set.
That's so organized. I'm impressed.
Right? I actually stole this after watching Shout Bam. A tutorial, and no, it wasn't even watching, it was downloading something. I downloaded a brush set that was displayed like this, and like this one was empty, but then everything underneath it was all organized, and I was like, that's exactly what I've been waiting for all my life. So anyway, there you go.
I can see some familiar names there.
I cannot take credit for that. So I'm just flipping really quick. You might see that, but I don't want to bump this cord and then knock myself out. Not knock, you get it. All right, so we're going to go into the first brush that we're going to use is the round brush, the all-rounder. There is like a subtle duo color one, and then there's, I think that I copied it because I liked the way that this one looked, but I wanted it to be a single color, so I turned that color dynamic off. But you could do either of these ones if you like a subtle change in your color. I'm not going to use that this time because I am going to add more color in. Okay, I said that I was at that was the one I was grabbing. I was lying. Sketching and detail pencil is the one I want to grab first, because if you can believe it, I am going to draw before I watercolor for the first time ever. I know, I'm wild. I say that I never do that, but that's what I'm going to do for this. And you are too. Okay,
Calm down, Peggy. I can't believe you maverick.
You're catching. I know that it's like end of day for you, but this is like beginning of day for me. And I've had so much caffeine, and you guys are the first thing that so you're welcome.
I wish I had a coffee right now.
I'm gonna grab kind of like a graphite color, so not black, not gray, but just in the in-between. And the reason why is because I actually really like the way that like a pencil line looks coming through watercolor. I'm going to keep this on a separate layer, so if I want to turn it off, I can, but for right now, this is what I'm going to do. So basically you're going to draw a pot first. So this is a rectangular shape, and I'm doing it kind of wobbly on purpose because I don't like things to look too, just too finished. It's not really my thing. If it is yours, you probably are familiar with the fact that you can snap and then edit shape and go to rectangular, and then you have this like perfect rectangle, and good for you. You do you. What is it that Amy Poehler says? Good for you, not for me. So I'm basically just going to create a lot of enough of these pots. And I'm not going to, again, be too particular with them. And you guys can make these whatever shape you want. If you want them longer, or if you want, actually, I should probably move that up. If you want them longer, or shorter and wider or rounded or anything like that, this is all up to you, however you want to do it. Some of them I'm doing lighter than the other ones because the way that the pencil line will show through in the watercolor part will be fun. So now this part is going to be so very, very basic, okay? Ideally, I would have this done, I would create something that's like this big, and then I could really play with these. So I actually am not sure. We're doing this together, trial and error, where you will find out together how well this brush set works small, but I'm sure it's going to work beautifully.
I'm sure, knowing Lisa. Do you know what exact plants you're going to be painting, by the way?
Yeah, so that's the thing about these plants. I don't know the names of them. Everyone thinks because I love plants and I have books on plants and flowers that I know the names of them, and I don't. So I will tell you the ones that I do for sure know. So I'm going to move this over and actually do another one right here so I can make one a little bit taller. So we can do a ficus. Yeah, popular. Impressive. Okay, so basically I am making this kind of large, and I'm just doing a very skinny, and notice this is not perfect. Nothing about it is perfect, and that is okay. And then basically the leaves on these guys look like they are skinny, and then they get a little bit, larger toward the outside, but they're a little flat. And then one of the things that I always do when I draw plants is to not have everything be so wide, because if it was, it would look like everything was basically facing toward us. Mm-hmm.
It looks like a pear in a hurricane.
It does, doesn't it? So keeping the, the width of each leaf, or I guess changing it up will make it so that it looks a little bit more organic, which is funny to say when we're doing these small little doodles. But you could also do, like some overlapping here, and behind it's fine, but in front of it is also fine. This might bother you, but that's the thing. Like, that's the beauty of like this organic nature. Also, we're working digitally, so you can erase lines that you don't want there. I do want that there because I think it's just going to add some cool interest. So basically, okay, that looks okay to me. When it's small, it's going to look darling. And then as far as detail goes, you can put in minimal detail, but remember, we're going to be enhancing all of this with our actual color. So I'll just put kind of like a base in so that I know, what I'm going to be referencing. But other than that, I'm not going to worry too much about what's going on with detail. Also, remember taxonomy. And ideally, this would be like half the size. So I'm probably going to do these, shrink them down to about here, and then fill the rest of the page in, later. But this is what we have time for. So this is what we're doing. Now we can go into let's see, I'm going to move this down a little bit so I have room for a snake plant. Hey, look at that.
Coming through with the knowledge.
Okay, so these are really skinny, and they're like imperfect little leaves that go straight up. They're pretty stiff if you've ever had or seen one. And that's basically it. We don't have to do anything else to it. How brilliant. Now we can do, let's say, like an aloe-ish type of plant. So
do you remember the Roald Dahl books, like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and all that?
Yeah.
They had these incredible kind of whimsical illustrations that looked very basic, but they were so good by this guy, Quentin Blake. Do you remember
Probably
them?
going to be, they were probably much better than what we're doing today.
Well, this reminds me of it because it's just such simple lines, yet it somehow looks really good and has loads of character.
Especially when they're small. Yeah, that's the thing about taxonomies. But also even when they're not small, you know, these little doodles, people think like, oh, I can't. I just want to tell you guys how much it doesn't matter. Like this was supposed to be aloe vera plant. It's totally not, because aloe vera is a lot more like this, where it's like a lot more formed. I don't know what this turned out to be. This is more of like a tom plant, but that's okay because plants, there are plants that look like that. I don't know what they are, but they do. Okay. So, so I'll make this my aloe. So they're basically, you know, longer, a little bit more formed. Okay. This is looking more like one of those, what is it called? Hens and chicks succulents.
Yeah. It does a bit.
But this is what happens when you don't have a reference in front of you and you're going off of memory. So you're welcome. Embrace imperfections, you guys. All right. So now my favorite is a philodendron or pothos, things like that. So those are those hanging vines. You could do monstera. That's a form of it. Like monsteras are all the rave, or at least they were 2 years ago. I'm not going to because I'm a rebel. But basically to do these, I'll create a pot and then I'll just create some like stringy bits coming off of it. I guess I should move that over a little bit so it doesn't interfere. And then I'm just going to create these leaves. See, I'm getting onto the set.
Do you name your plants? Because we have a bunch around the house. We have one that looks like this and we called her Rapunzel.
Rapunzel. That's darling. Name. It's fitting. It's darling. So I think I'm the only person that doesn't. And I also like don't name my iPad doesn't have a name. I have named it because somebody told me to, and I forgot the name. I think it's had like 3 names, but I think I'm like the only person that doesn't do that. Like how not fun is that of me?
I'm very saddened and disappointed by that.
I know it's disappointing.
It's all right. There's like, time to rectify it.
Yeah, right when you thought you liked me.
Yeah. I thought you were.
So basically, Peggy. Really simple, like so. Yeah, I mean it's fine. And then I'm going to move these over so there's a little more breathing room. And then I think maybe we could do just a couple of lines like so, and then create, actually, let's do rounded ones because it just adds a little bit more variety. That's the thing about leaves, like these C curves or V's or whatever we make. So basically an S curve is going to create more of that, you know, this kind of shape. And then our C curve, if we go the whole way around, then we have more of a playful leaf. They're just so easy. Like leaves are one of my favorite things to paint, to draw. And like Tom said, look at how darling when they all come together. So
it's like a little family.
It is. Family of love.
You should sell these, by the way. You should do a pack of plant graphics.
You know I really should because I have over like 500 of them. And I don't know why it hasn't occurred to me to think about doing that. This ball is going to be what we will call the scientific name, Snow White cactus.
Ooh. I will give you a very quick cactus story while you're doing the spines. So my lovely stepsister, she gave me this Christmas gift, and she used one of those little kind of bag box things you get for bottles of wine where it can like fit one bottle of wine. And I was like, oh my God, that's so sweet. Like normally I wouldn't expect anything from her. So I eagerly like plunged my hand into this thing, and there's a freaking cactus in the bottom of it, and it was like a prank. And it took
that's
about,
not a good prank.
It really wasn't. It took like 4 to 5 months. I'd go to pick up like a mug or something, and the embedded spine in my thumb would like still hurt because they were so deep in there. It was terrible. She found it funny though. Yeah.
It's not funny. It's not funny. I have trauma around getting hit by cacti.
I'm scared. Like if I go to pick up a bottle of wine, I just kind of wince instinctively.
I'm just picturing this. Oh, that's good. Okay. So now you have your doodles. Good job. And we're going to do another layer. Now here's the kicker. I'm going to put this layer that I just created underneath my sketch layer. And the reason why is because I want to be able to see where my lines are easier. This is so not necessary. This is what I do usually when I we'll do like line drawing with more of a hard brush that's like solid, not sketchy, sketch-like. And so deal here is you don't have to do this, but I always do because I like to see exactly where my lines are, and then I can move it back to the top. If you're working on a dark interface like I am, some of you are on a light interface. I just have it this way because before they introduced a light interface, I was so used to this one anyway, so I still use it, but it does help. I'm not a namer, but I do like to name my sketch layer just because it blends in with the background, so it's really hard to see. So I recommend doing that if you need to, but now we're going to go into actually creating these watercolor effects. So again, all-rounder. This is the one that I go to with this brush set. Of course, it's not like the only option, but when it comes to like finessing a watercolor effect, but still having control over it, which is so backwards if you're used to watercolor painting. I guess not, but no name layer would be a good name. That's the one that I'll go to is the all-rounder. And then you can choose any color. You guys don't be married to your colors that you choose because you can change them. It's so easy to change your colors. It's one of my favorite things. And in fact, I usually never stick to the original colors that I choose when I am doing anything on Procreate. So I'm just going to see the size. So I'm going to turn this down. And the thing about all-rounder is like, do you see what's happening here? The edges, like, and then if you apply pressure, like Genius. It looks so pretty. It's so pretty the way that this works. So the thing to note about this one is I'm just going to go around, and I don't usually care about staying in the lines because I will often just remove the sketch entirely. But in this case, I'm not going to because I like the pencil line. I think the effect is cool. So basically, if I were to continue on that first stroke that I'm doing, you can see that there's no overlap. If I were to lift my Apple Pencil, you can't see me doing that, but if I've lifted it and then continued, you're gonna see that blend as if it was like an actual overlap. Sometimes people like that, but if it's like something like this where it's probably not supposed to be there, there's a fix. And that is to go into the wet blending brush, which is this one right here. And you can use the same color, just bring it down, and you can just kind of buff that out. Now, if you don't want to be adding color like I just added, you can do the same thing with the, there we go. See the icon, the smudge tool? Yeah, you can do the same thing there. Whoops, way too big. Where it just will smudge that out. And sometimes having like a little bit of that hard line is fun, but just as an FYI, I don't know. I don't like to use the smudge tool too much because it really makes things kind of seamless. So basically, if you're using, if it's in a small section like this, I would just go back and redo it. But if it's in a large section and it's not like this perfect circle I created, which was the worst example in the world, then it really comes in handy.
It works just like real watercolor, because if you stop painting and then you came back and added to it, you would see a kind of distinction.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So the other thing that I like to do is, I don't know if you can see that, this one I have the vein kind of upward. I left some white space in there. That's intentional just now. So I did that because if you zoom in, you can see that that hard line that this brush creates is in the center. I pressed a little bit harder on the bottom line than I did the top line. And so if I turn off my sketch layer, you can really, really see that. So just having those little aspects in here is just really fun. Now, for this one down here, if I was to go over it, see how that bleed comes in? Oh, how fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the overlap, but I could also do that in a different color. For now, I'm just going to do this because it makes it really easy.
Yeah, it looks quite graphical.
Yeah, it's fun. So a few things. I like to work in this is new, and I might be eating my words because next week I might totally change my mind and say something totally different. So if I contradict myself at any point, I'm just putting it out there that that's probably going to happen. But I do enjoy working in color blocks instead of in plant by plant or item by item, because it just helps me with organization on layers. You'd think I wouldn't be very organized, but I like to have a green layer. So I'm just going to go in and just slightly offset the green color so it's something a little bit different. I'm not really worried about what it is. And that's not quite different enough. Easy. So there we go. And I'm just going to do the same thing to all of these plants. Green. Isn't it pretty?
Yeah.
Now, there's not a seam in the middle of snake plant leaves, but I did leave some white space. That's just because I like a realistic look of watercolor, and watercolor I happen to leave white space a lot in my work because I like it to look loose and imperfect. I just think it's pretty. So notice we're doing flat colors right now. We're going to add to it. Don't worry. We're going to add to it and make things a lot more interesting to where they look like there's more like a wet on wet effect. But right now we're just getting color fill in here. I have this giant plant in my guest room, and it's large enough to where somehow the leaves are still alive, but only on the top fourth. The rest of it is very brown and crusty because I forgot it was in there. That's just what happens. You guys don't spend too much time on color. Just don't. What are you going to say, Hen?
I was going to say, I feel like so many people have got into houseplants during lockdown. I know way more about it than I did when I had a social life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean it totally makes sense. We're stuck staring at our homes. You know how many renovations are going on right now?
Yeah,
people are making upgrades.
So yeah, I've been learning DIY. I'm useless around the house, and even I've been doing stuff.
Like what?
Well, I'm so useless that I will do the most pathetically simple things. I genuinely was proud of myself the other day because I changed a light bulb. I had a mini celebration.
Do you want to know? I'm an electrician. It's a new thing I can put on my resume.
You're a qualified electrician.
Yep. Wow. I installed not only a new light fixture, which I don't worry have done before, but I installed a dimmer switch in my office because I hate overhead. Oh, that's really unbalanced. Because I hate overhead lighting so much. And so I installed a new light fixture that's on track lighting, and then changed the switch to a dimmer switch, which, you guys, there were no instructions.
That's pretty advanced. Did you go on YouTube or?
I sure did.
Yeah. YouTube has everything.
I spent an hour and a half trying to figure it out. And then I was like, I guarantee you there's a YouTube on this, on the exact plug. And there was, and it took me had I watched that, I would have saved an hour and a half because it was only 8 minutes long. But what I will say is that I am an electrician, and it was you guys don't understand the pure childlike joy I had when the lights came on and they dimmed correctly. Childlike joy.
It's very satisfying when you can fix something.
Is.
Or so I've heard. I wouldn't know from personal
I was going to
experience.
say. Okay, you guys, just so a quick note, as we're coloring these in really slowly, sorry. Quick note is mine are so, I just want to show you what things look like when I put my sketch layer on the bottom. So do you see how that it's like the transparency is there, but you can still see the outer. So what I do, see, here's a good example. What I do is I go in and I erase the part of the sketch that is exposed, and then I keep a lot of it that's underneath the leaves. This is a total, like, you don't have to do this. I just think it looks cool. I guess since it's pretty transparent, I don't even need to have my sketch layer on top, but I just wanted to show you in case you were like, wow, that doesn't look very cool. Yes, it does.
I like it. I've always enjoyed that look, actually. Sketch and watercolor. It's a good combo.
I never ever sketch before I watercolor, just because like I'm really impatient when it comes to physical media. For some reason, I'm not on digital. It's just a totally different feel and vibe. So I don't know, but that's a thing. Good story, me. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing to the pots, but I'm going to choose a terracotta color. You guys obviously can choose whatever color suits your fancy. There are more colors than terracotta. I just happen to really enjoy a good contrast, and terracotta contrasts really beautifully with plants. So, okay.
Are you going terracotta for all the pots, Peggy?
I sure am. Okay, so you can use the all-rounder on this part if you would like, if you would choose. I'm gonna redo this because I want it to be more filled, because the balance of white space, I don't want it to be like too crazy. But I also want to now introduce to you, this brush's size is a little too small for what I want to do, but that's okay. I do also want to introduce to you the subtle duo color, which is why I changed it to a subtle single color. I think I might have even edited this one, but okay. So this is the thing. If you turn this down and you apply pressure, this is where that watercolor effect is like, whoa, hey, buddy, this is fun, right? So what I like to do is I like to go in, create a new layer on top of that layer, and then apply a clipping mask. The reason why I want a clipping mask is because I don't want this effect to go outside of the pot. I just want it to affect the pot itself. So I'm going to do a clipping mask, and that'll only grab, see how I can go over everything. Now, this effect kind of lightens things. So if you want to go darker, I mean, you can see it's still going to lighten it. So I would do this more as, instead of like using shadows, it's kind of like, how can you put in negative space to add like a hot spot is what they're called when watercolor has those like white marks on the inside. It's basically like, oh, you have a hot spot there. That's not what you're supposed to have. Only I say they're really fun and I've always loved them. But if you were to go and take a college course on it, on watercolor, they would say, don't ever do that. So that's why you shouldn't go to college.
I didn't know it was called that.
Yeah, well, I don't know if that's the official word, but it is a hot spot.
It is now.
So, there we go. So like just those little things, little subtle differences, like this is just the same exact color. It's just adding more of that texture in there. So that is a fun option. Now, I'm showing you these techniques now that we have one plant, basically just the ground part is covered. I want to make a note that I could work on the same clipping mask for effect, or I could create another clipping mask on top of that one and clip to that layer. I just realized that I was not working in sections and I put those on the same layer, which is my MO. I do this too much. So if you do that and it bothers you so much and you do want to have separated color, since I only did just this one, I can isolate that and then use, you can't see my fingers, but I'm using 3 fingers and swiping down on my canvas and then saying cut and paste. And what that did was it actually created a clipping mask since there was a clipping mask on top of it. So I turned that off, and then I turned the one that's on top of it on, so clipping mask. And then you can see the effect is applied. So now I have this on a separate layer. So I can rename this green, and I can rename this terracotta, not brown. It deserves the word that it is. So basically just a fun, cool technique. I was going to say, Elena, yeah. So, on a dark background, it would. The problem with it is that since it's watercolor and there's transparency, as soon as you make it dark, it's going to have that see-through part. So if you guys do want to ever put this on a darker background, just what I would do is just use like a monoline pen and make draw everything in white and fill it so that it has a white solid background, and then it'll pop on dark background. Yes, thank you. So then I can go in and I can erase this where I want. I can erase this sketch part. And now I want to also point out that I'm not erasing all of it. Sometimes I'll just make it really
Peggy, may I interject for a moment?
Thinner. Tom, please. I mean, please do.
I think. I'm like, please, Tom, give me a break.
So I'm down on my green layer. I'm going to create a layer on top of that and create a clipping mask. So that way I can work in just green or just this terracotta color. So on my clipping mask for green, now I'm going to go to, there's a couple that I like, but Bloom Accents is one that I really like. So it's basically like painting or smudging. And I picked a darker green. So this is really big. And then what you can do is go around on like the edges and create like drop shadow type of things. And it just creates a really natural, organic style. And then the other one was the Rugged, and you can push down for more texture. I like to use this on the edge, and I'm just going to keep, or actually I want to go darker. I like to use it on the edge just to kind of darken that even more, to create more of that. See how it looks really cool when, and then push down for more texture, which I think is darling that she put that in her actual brush name.
Her brush names are the best, honestly.
I mean, really, that's thorough. I created a new layer on top of everything that's not a clipping mask so that I can put these in these little guys. And I just grabbed a beigey color. Probably not the best choice in the world, but that's what I chose. So I was just gonna wait. Now it's gone. What was I saying? Who cares?
Beigey cactus.
Yeah, but there was something else, and it was about you. I can't remember what it was. Another thing that I like to do, though, is to go back to that green layer and grab a darker color again, and then create kind of like a little, maybe that's too dark, a little bit of depth. Let's see, what do we want to use? Let's go with this olive. Oh yeah, I need to change the brush style. Go all around her. Is it because I'm on a clipping mask? Yeah. I'm going to go above the clipping mask. So you can see when it's really small, these might look really weird to you up close, but when it's really small, that tiny little accent just adds, just some extra oomph. Now, I want to just really quickly say, I know that I did not give everybody enough time to complete a taxonomy, and I'm not expecting everyone to complete it. The idea here was to introduce a whole bunch of different plants to you and then introduce to you the way that I would go about using this brush set. So just as a quick reminder, if some of you have like something that you have to jump off and you were, yeah, okay. Then what I wanted to tell you is write this down, use the all-rounder brush, okay? And then for accents, use the Bloom Accents, which is this one, is one of my favorites. And then obviously you can play with the others, and Lisa has some great tutorials, but just my process of what I do, just as an FYI, if you have to go all rounder, bloom accents, if you have an overlap that you want to get rid of, use the wet accent brush and blender or wet blending brush. Either of those are great. And then remember that if you want like that super, super like light wash of watercolor, the subtle duo color, you can see, I mean, just by the look of the brush, you can see the interior, how it's transparent. Like it creates magic. The other thing that I wanted to share with you though, for those who have to hop off, is if you go to the bottom here, there's these random splatters. And I don't know about you, but I'm a big fan of, on real watercolor, holding my brush above my piece when I'm done and tapping it so that paint splatters everywhere. So you're going to get that effect. Oops, too big, from these splatters. So I can go in and just add, how about smaller, something like this. See, like these little splatters, they're so good. Or you can make it larger.
It looks like someone shot that cactus. In slow motion.
So cute. But yeah, I mean, it does. So these tiny
either that or it's being sick.
Yeah, well, there you go. But yeah, so you can do like these little effects like this, and it just creates this added interest, which is really, really fun. I'm a big fan of splatter and always have been. I guess I like things to, it does look like that though. Like there should be a little hole coming out the other side. Okay, so we'll go through a few more. I might say new things, I might not, but you have the replay. You also have Lisa. When you buy her brush set, if you haven't already, she has a really excellent tutorial on a walkthrough. I think it's only like 20 minutes long that will walk you through this process also. I value your guys' time so very much. So I wanted to give you enough to where you can go and create additional stuff this weekend. So you're welcome. And now we'll play more. Basically, same thing. I'm intentionally leaving a little white space right there just because I think it's fun. And then filling that. And something I really, really like about doing pots is if you can make the overlap slightly under the lip, mine is slightly on it, which is fine. But if you can plan it out to where it's slightly under, then it kind of makes for a shadow, like a drop shadow kind of thing. See what I mean? Huh?
Pretty. Tricks. Instant shading.
Here, I know. Here we'll do another one, but I will, let's see, how do I want to do this? Okay. So do your box. Leave a little white space if you're feeling wild. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to actually bring it sideways and then bring it back up. And this
like a chat
create a light source. A chat bubble.
That looks really
good. What are you saying? But it's basically like there's a light source now coming from one direction, and the lip of this is basically making it so that it has a directional shadow instead of just an overhead drop shadow. So these are different effects that you can create. Simply another way to do this. Let's say you've already completed some. That white space is too big. Let's redo this. How dare I subject you to such ugly painting job? Let's say that you want, why did that happen? Me? I know how to do things, you guys. Okay, so let's say you already did yours and you're like, Peggy, why are you just now showing me this? Do I have to delete everything and start over? No, you don't. Because you can also do them on the side like so, to where it's like, and oftentimes this makes even more sense because usually drop shadows are toward the bottom. It doesn't have to be under the lip. Also, if you want it to be under the lip, you can just draw it in. So don't worry, options are never ending. Just do note that if you do them, differently on each thing, look how pretty that is, even just as a circle. Look at it.
I love the texture. It looks like a coffee ring kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, speaking of segue, look at all these stamps. Okay. There's also stamps that you can apply. So these can go as like a wash, or they can be applied as like a clipping mask. So first I'll show you as a wash. There you go. Boom. That fast. You have this awesome watercolor technique. So if I was to make a clipping mask on top of this, then, and go maybe a little bit darker, it only will affect, and this is what I was, let's see, there we go. It will only affect like just that area, but the same, like the actual effect, you can see it here, will be applied, but it's just subtle. So like you can use those stamps as detail and not just as, you know, backgrounds or stamps. Like this one's really cool. I'll go off the clipping mask for a second to show you. Look how cool that is. So if you were to make that a little bit smaller and then go to your clipping mask and just kind of offset it, then you will notice like as the buildup happens, you can see those watercolor effects taking place. I'm going to leave them.
Pretty cool.
I like them.
They look more weathered. They've been out in the elements for a while.
Exactly. Like this one I just added, and look at the subtle difference that it makes. Like with all of the layers, it looks like you've done like some wet on wet effect. It's just cool. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Neat. So
neato.
It's neato. As you can see though, if I was to do, like I was saying before I got distracted from myself, these different versions of this, like these two, it starts to look more like a design, less like a drop shadow, because they're all different. So that's fine for right now because I'm explaining something. But if you were to do something that's like a cohesive taxonomy set of some kind, it would be in your best interest to have all of your shadows correlate and be like the same direction, just as an FYI. So before I go into the other pots, in case some of you are like, oh, I can stay a little bit longer, but I can't stay that much longer, we'll do some leaves because we haven't done leaves yet. So I'm going to go into my green layer and the clipping mask of it. And the reason why is because I want to take advantage of this white space right here. And I'm just going to go over the white space. I'm just drawing on the white space itself. And just like that, if I get rid of some of my sketch layer, you can, I mean, even with the sketch layer, you can see how it just emphasized it. And then if I make that a little bit larger, I can go around the edges here. And it doesn't look great yet because the rest of the color is so flat, which we're going to take care of. But I just wanted to show you like how you can enhance edges. The Bloom Accents brush is one of my favorites to do this. I just think like it's soft, but it's also pretty gritty, and you can get pretty close to black. So I'm on the interior, you can't see that, but just like the bottom right here, and see how much darker that made it. I don't know if I've told you guys this before, but I used to be the person who would come home from the mall with all of my clothes. Okay, when I say used to be, I mean always have been. Oh, real quick, I'm adding brown. Okay, when you make it small, look how much character that adds. Okay. With the Bloom accent brush a little larger. And now I'm going to go into my sketch layer and get rid of some of this harsh line on the outside, but I want to keep some of it just because I think it looks cool. But yeah, and I would try on all of my clothes, all of them, and I would make my mom like tell me what she thought 700 times. She would be like, yeah, I really like that one. I'm like, okay, but what do you really think? Like, do you like it from this side? Like, that's me. And I'm not proud of it, but I still do it. Laura entertains it though. She makes it fun.
Do you do it with creative work? Because I was terrible for that at school. Like I needed the teacher to practically like tussle my hair and be like, "Attaboy, good job." I was like, I need to know it's good.
I don't now because I've done so much client work where it's like you get hired and then you do client work and you give them the stuff and they ask for revisions, which is negative, it's negative reinforcement. Like I want it to, it's not even negative. It's just like they want it to be more of what they want, which they should. But in my mind, I'm like, they hate it. So I'll do these revisions. And then like when you finally do exactly what they want, they're like, okay, great, thanks. Approved. And I'm like, approved? Like, do you want to talk about how cool this thing is that I just created? Because it's so cool. And why are we not talking about it for hours, you know? But
okay, so That reminds me of something, just while you're shading here. It really annoys me that on social media, I see amazing creative friends and creative people I know who will like slave away on a work of art or a short film or something. And it gets about 3 likes and one person being like, that's nice. And then someone posts like a holiday selfie or vacation rather selfie, and it blows up and everyone's like, oh my God, good job, living your best life. Like, we support you, hon. And there just seems to be this disparity where creatives do not get the love they should get because people don't realize like how hard it is and how much work goes into some of these projects. And I'll see them and be like, that's unbelievable. Like, that must have taken hundreds of hours. It's incredible. And then people post like the most inane thing and it's like, boom, like,
that's what happens. I notice like the things that I spend 2 seconds on are the things that like really grab attention. Real quick, you guys, when it comes to getting rid of sketches, like I still like that this is here. And if you just lightly go over, then it will work with pressure. So if I were to go hard, it would get rid of all of it. But if I just lightly do it, then it leaves a little bit. So I might go and, not make some of it more transparent and some of it more obvious. That's a creative choice that you have.
Cool.
But no, it's funny because when that happens, it's so funny when that happens because like we all do. We work so hard on a thing and it just like gets no traction at all. And then we do something super fast because it's like, oh, I should probably continue utilizing Instagram for, my personal brand. I really need to post something, and you do it quickly. Like you don't really put a lot of thought into it. And that's the one that like really captures everyone. You're like, what the heck? This took me 2 seconds. Like, did you not see the thing from 3 days ago? The thing I'm really, really proud of.
Way. What is that?
Always.
Yeah.
You guys, real quick. Now, I never utilize this feature. And when I say never, I mean seldom. But the brush that I'm using right now, like I'm intentionally putting in these really dramatic shadows. I like it. So you have the option of decreasing opacity with stuff like this for sure, but I like it, but I do want some transparency in it. So rather than creating a whole other layer and doing that and doing transparencies, I'm actually going to utilize my opacity slider, and I'm going to bring that down and just kind of fill some of this area in just a little bit lighter. It's not something I do very often. I had somebody ask me that in a recent workshop that I did, like, what's the benefit? Personally, I think it's more of like working indestructively. I prefer to be able to edit and change literally everything. So like if I was to look at this from a glance and be like, no, I want it to be a little bit lighter, a little bit darker, having that control is great. But the opacity slider lets you have the same effect and go through it. Like, let's say if you have a brush that you really, really love, but it doesn't have the opacity change with pressure, or maybe not as much as you want to, but you like the brush, you don't want to edit the brush settings, you can use your opacity slider, and then you can have that same technique. Just as a thing. I'm all over. I've got brown and green and like yellow on this layer. I have no idea what happened, but this is my organization. Now you're seeing my true colors. Get it?
The outcome that matters.
I did so good on that one. Oh boy. But yeah, so like when you see that smaller, like look at how much it comes to life. So one thing I want to try really quickly though is I want to see if I go to my terracotta layer and I go to adjustments, hue, saturation, brightness layer. If I make it the darkness or the brightness, bring that down and boost the saturation and then change the hue. There we go. I think I like it darker, but maybe more orangey. The problem with doing this is that the clipping mask will also be affected. I just wanted to have that pop a little more. Right now I'm using the wet accent brush and blender, but before that I was using the all-rounder, and I use the all-rounder a lot. Oh wait, was that right? Yeah. Or no, it was bloom accents. I'm super sorry, but I use them interchangeably, bloom accents and round brush, the all-rounder. But the main difference is that I use the all-rounder for like my outlining and filling initially. But then when it comes to like blending, I like to, and it's not necessarily like because of a certain technique so much as it is to switch up techniques. That's like real bright.
Oh, I like that little it's like the sun is just being cast against it, right? Little warmth. I need that warmth in my life. It's very rainy and grey here in the UK.
It's happening to all of them. I know, me too. I think we have the same exact weather at all times.
I hear that, yeah. Portland's pretty grey.
Pretty grey. It was nice for a couple of days, and now not so much.
Yeah, we got a couple of like blissful hours, and then it's like back to terrible.
Yeah. Oh, see, like this little pencil mark that goes higher than the watercolor here. You guys can't see where I'm pointing. It's that one. I'm keeping it. I like it. It makes me very happy, so I'm keeping it. So it's stuff like that. Like it's a very intuitive, organic process of creative choices. Trust your instincts because they're correct. They are. They are always correct. It's not like a question of, oh, will this be acceptable? Will someone else like this? It's like, no. Do you like it? Does it bring you joy? Does it spark joy?
Thank you, Marie.
Yeah, anytime. Okay, so I'm going to do this.
She was pretty sweet. I never finished that Netflix program.
Oh, I watched it while purging my closet.
Were you thanking your individual possessions? That's
I was
part of
not,
it, right?
No, but I was paying attention to how they were making me feel. Just so you guys know, I'm using the Bloom accents again. I really like this one for like edge accent, really all accents, but edge accents especially. So that's the thing. I wasn't, but I got rid of, I'm not even kidding you. This is embarrassing. Okay, you guys, dopamine, right? The one thing that brings me like the most dopamine, not that we should be like actively after it, but the one thing that really gets me is shopping for clothes. Why? When I live in sweats? I don't know. So recently I've done this cute thing called, well, if you wear sweats, just buy a ton of sweats. So I've been doing that. But anyway, I got rid of probably oh gosh, it's embarrassing. I think at least 8 bags of clothes, like large bags of clothes.
Yeah.
And my closet was still full.
Yeah, I mean,
like, I didn't have
you've worn that sweater on the last 8 calls that I've talked to you on, but
no, I have not, have I? Have I really? Because I did notice though, I was like, gosh, if anyone watched my Instagram yesterday, because I did put a story up, I'm like, if anyone watched that, it will be obvious that I am indeed intentionally wearing this sweater again, but it's bringing me a lot of comfort. It's really comfortable. Mm-hmm. See, you guys know you have hundreds of dresses. I know. Oh, you guys, this is TMI, but I just got NYX underwear and they have shorts, like shorts underwear. So you don't have to wear bicycle shorts under dresses. You can just wear the underwear that are shorts. Can you believe it?
I cannot.
It's like the best news anyone's ever had. You're welcome. They're really comfortable too. They're like super thin. So I'm going to go to subtle duo color. I'm going to make it super small and I'm going to just create some like little interest just going kind of sideways.
That looks nice.
Thank you. And this will, whoops, I don't want that. I want white. So yeah, but you can do this with color if you want to. I just wanted it to be really subtle because I want the focus to be more on the, like, you know, this stuff. Anyway, when you make it small, it's just really subtle. And then I want to come in here and just, that's too much. I might do it actually on the eraser and see what happens. Just like, oh, I want to be on the layer.
I'm just aware that you're like a talking forehead right now.
Oh, what?
You're a talking forehead right now for the majority of the audience.
What if I do it like this and I move my camera down? Do you see just like the sliver of my mouth when I do this?
I guess
if
so.
I just keep it, it's like the upside down faces that have just the mouths moving and then the googly eyes on the chin.
It's so good.
You're welcome. Okay, listen, you guys, you get the gist. Okay, so if you don't look at this, if you don't, okay, here's what not to look at. Don't look at this. Don't look at this. And oh wait, you can look at that one. And don't look at this part because it's not done yet. This one's just like, but if you look at the rest of them, you can really see how they're coming together and how you can make this your own. Obviously, I knew I wasn't going to get through all of this. So anyway, what I'm saying to you, and real quick, I just want to note, I'm looking at the screen now, and the screen of what you guys see is a little more subtle than what I see on my screen. So
I like that.
Know that you can go even darker and really just pump that in there. I don't know why screens are funny, but you learn something cool, and you do have homework, and your homework is to finish your taxonomy, make it beautiful, throw it up on Instagram, and tag Design Cuts and the Pigeon Letters, because I really want to see them, because everyone's interpretation of plants, especially when they're cute and darling and all listed on one page or one piece, is one of my favorite things to see. So, and then just a shameless plug, buy my book.
I think a few people did already.
And thanks, guys. And buy Lisa's brush set, because if you don't have it, I mean, a lot of you guys do. I could see that you have it and are working along. But if you haven't, do that. Thank you, guys. You're all incredible. This is so fun every time.
You did my job for me. I think that's it. You said it all. Peggy, I love going live with you. Thank you so much for being so generous with your time and making it so fun always.
Absolutely. You guys do your homework, and thank you, Tom. And I will let you guys go back to all the Design Cuts wonder of things, and I will see you guys later.
All right, Peggy, I'll chat to you soon. But thank you.
Thanks, guys.
You rocked it.